You ever notice how betrayal doesn't scream? It whispers. And sometimes it smells like lavender shampoo on a dog that's never been washed at home. That's how it started. I'm not the kind of guy who jumps to conclusions. I'm a problem solver. I work with my hands, I fix things, I build. I've been married to Emily for almost 9 years, and for most of that time, I thought we were solid. We weren't perfect. We had our share of fights about bills, my forgetfulness, her overcommitments, but nothing big. At least, I didn't think so. Until the dog got sick. Max, our retriever, is 12, arthritic, a little grumpy, still my best buddy. A couple months ago, he started limping bad, so we took him to the vet. Well, I took him at first. Dr. Mason ran the clinic, a soft-spoken guy, maybe a few years younger than me, always smelled like antiseptic and mint. I didn't think much of him. But the second time Max needed a follow-up, Emily offered to take him. I've got the morning off, she said casually, grabbing the leash. Might as well. Harmless, right? But when Max came home, I noticed he smelled different. Lavender. Expensive kind. Not our usual dog shampoo, either. And Emily? She was in a strangely good mood, humming in the kitchen, wearing makeup on a Tuesday morning. Still, I let it go. I mean, maybe they just used something fancy at the clinic. Next week, same story. Emily takes Max, comes back happier than she left. And Max smells like lavender again. That's when the whisper started in the back of my mind. She began volunteering on Saturdays at the vet clinic, something about helping organize charity events for stray animals. That made sense. Emily's always loved animals. But her phone started living in her hand. She laughed differently when texting. She started locking it. Then came the day I went in to pick up Max's medication myself. Just a quick errand. I walked in, and the receptionist, a young woman named Chloe, blinked when she saw me. "Oh, hi," she said, awkwardly. I smiled, keeping it friendly. "Just picking up Max's arthritis meds. Emily usually handles it." She hesitated. "Right. Of course. I'll grab those." I sat in the waiting area and overheard two vet techs talking in hushed tones behind the door. "She's married, you know," one of them said. "I don't think he cares," the other whispered. Something about the way they went silent when they saw me walk past? It turned that whisper in my brain into a cold shiver. I told myself I was overthinking, but I also started paying attention. I checked her calendar. Every volunteer shift lined up with Dr. Mason's schedule. I found a receipt in the trash for a cafe 2 towns over, the same day she said she was volunteering. That night, I looked at Max, laying beside me on the couch, and asked, "Buddy, what do you know that I don't?" He didn't answer, of course, but that lavender smell was still clinging to his fur, and it felt like something sacred was being tainted. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I needed to be sure. Emily had always been clever, smart enough to know how to lie without technically lying. I wasn't going to walk into this blind. So I made a decision. I was going to gather the truth like a builder collects nails, carefully, piece by piece. No yelling, no assumptions, just facts. Because if there's one thing I've learned from fixing things all my life, it's that you never pull something apart until you know exactly how you're going to put it back together. Only this time. I wasn't sure I even wanted to. It's strange how fast your mind can turn into a detective when your heart suspects something's off. After the visit to the clinic and that awkward interaction with the receptionist, I couldn't ignore the itch anymore. You know that itch, not the physical kind, but the one that sits at the base of your spine, whispering, something's not right. That whisper got louder every day. Emily kept volunteering at the clinic, like clockwork. Saturday mornings. Wednesday evenings. Always when Dr. Mason was scheduled. I double-checked their open hours online, called once and asked about Saturday hours just to be sure. The receptionist told me they weren't even open to the public on Saturdays. Just staff meetings and inventory stuff, she said. Inventory? My wife doesn't know a syringe from a salad fork. I started watching patterns. Emily began dressing differently, not flashy, but with intention. I noticed her buying new jeans that fit just right, a couple of shirts I hadn't seen before. She even got a new pair of boots, said they were just for comfort, but they weren't the kind of boots you wear when you're helping sick animals. They were the kind you wear when you want to be noticed. Still, I didn't confront her. I told myself, don't jump. Observe. Collect. Prepare. So I did what any suspicious but tech-savvy husband might do. I installed a tracker app on her phone. Nothing illegal. I had access. We shared passwords. That was the trust we used to have. The app didn't show anything wild at first. Mostly standard locations. Home, grocery store, the clinic. Until one day it pinged in a residential neighborhood 20 minutes from the vet's office. That address didn't belong to any friend I knew, and she stayed there for over 2 hours. When I asked how her volunteer shift went, she smiled and said, "Quiet. Just inventory and catching up on paperwork." I nodded and didn't let her see the knot tightening in my chest. The next few days, I started paying more attention to her texts. I couldn't see the messages themselves, those were locked, but the contact labeled Dr. M appeared again and again. Dozens of messages. At all hours. Even at midnight. Who texts their vet at midnight? Then came the moment I couldn't shake. I walked into the kitchen and saw her smiling at her phone. A big, full smile, the kind she used to give me when we first started dating. But the second I stepped closer, she locked the screen and turned to the fridge. She didn't say a word, just grabbed a soda and walked past me like nothing had happened. I stood there, frozen. I didn't say anything right away. Instead, I waited until she left for one of her shifts and used that time to check her tablet. She'd left it on the couch. I figured maybe I could find something, anything. That's when I discovered the email account. It wasn't her main one. It was a secondary account I'd never seen before. Hidden. But she'd stayed logged in. The inbox wasn't full of junk. It was tidy, clean, and full of conversations with one name over and over again, Mason. The messages weren't graphic. Nothing obviously incriminating. But there were enough. "I miss yous, and wish you were here, and that lunch yesterday made my week," to punch me straight in the gut. She was smart. Careful. But not perfect. I took screenshots. Saved them to a flash drive. I emailed them to myself from a dummy address. I didn't want her deleting anything before I had it all backed up. That night, she came home acting like everything was normal. She curled up next to me on the couch, leaned into my shoulder, and started telling me about how Max's arthritis seemed better. She kissed my cheek. I almost said something right then. I wanted to scream, "Don't you dare sit there and lie to me." But I didn't. I just smiled, nodded, and asked, "How's Dr. Mason?" She paused. "Good," she said, too quickly. "Busy." I filed that away too. Over the next week, I kept building my case. I took note of every time she left, who she said she was meeting, what she wore. I kept receipts, tracked mileage, took photos of anything that felt off. It wasn't about revenge. Not yet. It was about truth. About not letting her spin a story when the time came. I knew I was changing. I felt it in the way I moved, the way I stopped trying to talk to her about my day. The distance between us used to be a crack. Now it was a canyon. And through it all, Max just lay there at my feet, looking up at me like he knew. The worst part? I still loved her. That's what betrayal does. It doesn't kill your love all at once. It slices it, slowly, piece by piece, while you try to pretend you're not bleeding. It was a Thursday morning when the call came. Emily's voice was rushed. "Max's leg is worse," he yelped when he got off the couch. "I'm taking him to the clinic now. Want me to come with?" I asked instinctively. There was a pause. "No, it's fine. You've got work. I'll handle it." Something in her tone was off. A little too eager. After we hung up, I stood there staring at the floor. Max hadn't seemed worse last night. If anything, he'd been more relaxed than usual. We'd gone for a slow walk, and he didn't limp more than normal. So why the sudden panic? I called the clinic an hour later, just to check in. "Hi, this is Ryan, Max's owner. Just wondering how the visit's going." The receptionist paused. Max? I don't have him on the schedule today." I froze. "Are you sure?" "My wife said she brought him in this morning." "No, there's nothing listed. Dr. Mason isn't even here today. He's off-site for a farm consult." "Okay," I said, keeping my voice even. "Thanks." When I hung up, my hand was trembling. I went home early that day, heart pounding. When I walked in, Max was there tail thumping, happy as ever, no sign of pain. His leash was hanging neatly on the hook. The dog bed hadn't been moved. And Emily? She didn't come home until nearly 5 p.m., carrying a takeout coffee and wearing clothes too clean for a vet clinic. "Oh, hey," she said. "We had to wait a while at the clinic. Long line. Max's leg seems okay now, though. Probably just stepped wrong." "Glad to hear," I replied, watching her carefully. She smiled, kissed me on the cheek, and disappeared upstairs. I stood there, stunned. She had just lied straight to my face. Calmly, casually, like it was nothing. The next day, I checked her car's GPS history, a feature she didn't know I had access to. She hadn't gone anywhere near the clinic. She'd driven to a residential neighborhood in the hills, parked for 2 hours, then stopped at a coffee shop on the way back. I copied the address and started digging. That house was owned by a man named Charles Mason. No wife listed. No kids. Just him. My stomach twisted. That night, I sat in the living room watching Emily scroll through her phone. Max laid his head in my lap, and I scratched behind his ears while trying to hold myself together. I thought about confronting her again, right there, asking who Charles Mason was. But I didn't. I wasn't done collecting yet. That weekend, I called an old college friend, Dan, who happened to be a private investigator. I didn't tell him everything, just enough. I need to know who she's seeing, I said. Where she's going. I've got some dates. I can give you names. Dan didn't ask questions. I'll keep it quiet. Give me 3 weeks. 3 weeks. In the meantime, I did my own low-level digging. I started driving past that same address after work. Every time, I saw the same silver SUV in the driveway. Once, I saw Emily's car parked down the street. She never mentioned being out that day. One night, I followed her. She left around 6:45, said she had planning work at the clinic. I waited 5 minutes, then got in my truck and tailed her, far enough back that she wouldn't notice. She drove straight to Mason's house, and she didn't come out for 2 hours. I parked around the corner, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. The worst part? I didn't even want to know what happened inside. I just wanted the lie to stop. When she got home, she acted like nothing had happened. Told me the clinic was understaffed, that she might start helping out more evenings. And I nodded, because by then, I was done hoping I was wrong. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't just emotional distance. She was cheating, and she was using our dog, our old, faithful Max, as an excuse to see another man. That was the part that broke something in me. It wasn't just the betrayal. It was how calculated it had become. She was using love, the love I had for Max, as a cover for her lies. That night, I took Max for a walk by myself. No leash. Just us in the quiet. I looked up at the stars and whispered, I don't know how this ends yet, but it's not going to be her way. Because Emily didn't know it yet, but I had already begun to dig the foundation of her reckoning. And I wasn't building a confrontation. I was building a trap. I once read that people don't slip up because they stop lying. They slip up because they get comfortable lying. Emily was getting very comfortable. She'd settled into a rhythm. Same days, same clinic work, same carefully worded excuses. And she was starting to believe I was still that same trusting husband who bought it all without blinking. She didn't know I had eyes everywhere now. Dan, the private investigator, was sending me weekly updates. And they weren't pretty. Photos of Emily arriving at Mason's place. Her car parked out front for hours. Once, he caught them walking together. She was laughing, leaning into him. Another photo showed her unlocking his front door like she lived there. But there was one piece still missing. Proof of what happened inside. I had to get it. So, I took a chance. One Saturday morning, I told Emily I was heading out early for a job site. Truth was, I drove across town to the vet clinic. I walked in and smiled at the receptionist. Hey, I just wanted to check in about Max's supplements. Emily said she asked Dr. Mason to order something new. The girl, Chloe, paused, glanced at the computer. I don't see anything recent. Just his usual arthritis meds. I said casually. She mentioned something about testing a new brand. She didn't leave a note. No, Dr. Mason hasn't been handling Max's case for a few weeks. He's been working mostly off-site. Oh, I said, raising an eyebrow. Emily didn't mention that. She said they were meeting here last week. Chloe looked confused, then embarrassed. She was here last Friday, but Dr. Mason wasn't. I think she left after a few minutes. I smiled politely, thanked her, and walked out, heart pounding. She was still lying to cover for him. I returned the next day, early Sunday morning, when I knew the clinic would be closed. The parking lot was empty. The back door had a camera above it, but also a vented drop box for after-hours deliveries. I slipped a tiny voice recorder inside Max's old Carrier, zipped it just enough to let sound through, and tucked it into the corner behind the bench near the staff lounge window. And I waited. Monday afternoon, I picked it up. No one even noticed. I played the audio that night, sitting alone in my truck. It started with quiet, then footsteps, then laughter. Emily's voice. You shouldn't say things like that, she giggled. I'm serious, a man replied. You're the best part of my week. Mason. They were inside the clinic, talking, flirting. She talked about me, lightly, mockingly. He's so careful. Always asks how Max is. Sometimes I think he cares more about the dog than me. More laughter. Then, the words that made my hands go numb. He has no idea. It's almost too easy. Almost too easy. They weren't just cheating. They were enjoying it. Feeding off the secrecy. Like a game. But I wasn't playing anymore. I took the recording to Dan. Can you enhance it? Clean it up. Make sure the voices are clear. He nodded. And back it up 6 ways. I went home that night and sat at the kitchen table for 2 hours, staring at the tiles. Same floor I laid by hand 7 years ago, thinking I was building something lasting. Turns out, I was just setting the stage for her lies. The next day, Emily kissed me goodbye and said, "Wish me luck. We're interviewing a new tech at the clinic." I smiled. Good luck. As soon as she left, I opened her laptop. Passwords hadn't changed. Her email history was thin. She'd clearly been deleting threads. But in the drafts folder, there was something she forgot to clear. An email titled, Our trip. Looking forward to the cabin weekend. I booked Friday through Monday. I told Ryan it's a conference retreat. He never asks questions. I forwarded it to myself and deleted the draft. Then I did something I hadn't done in months. I opened our wedding photo album and stared at the pictures, trying to remember when her smile stopped meaning what it used to. Dan called that evening. I traced Mason's address. Want to hear something fun? Hit me. He's on probation. Lost his license in Nevada 5 years ago. Practicing here on a conditional approval. That made me sit up. For what? Unprofessional conduct. There's a sealed court record, but I've got a friend who's digging. It might be worse than cheating. So now the stakes were higher. I wasn't just dealing with infidelity, I might be dealing with a man who had a past and who now had his claws in my wife. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. She thought she was untouchable. She thought I'd never fight back. But I had the audio, the photos, the emails, the motive. And now, maybe, something even bigger. She used our dog to cover her trail. Now I was going to use her own words to end the lie. You want to know the hardest part about catching someone in a lie? Pretending you didn't. Every day after I heard that recording, I woke up and played the part. Smiled when I needed to, made small talk over breakfast, nodded when she mentioned her extra hours at the clinic. Inside, I was a furnace. I wasn't just angry, I was burning with focus. And I was done guessing. Now I was collecting, building the scaffolding of a takedown that would leave no room for denial, no crack to slip through. Emily had no clue. She still kissed me goodbye like nothing was wrong. Still texted me during the day with little updates. Still posted smiling selfies on Instagram with captions like, "Grateful for simple days." I took screenshots of everything. Dan, my private investigator, came through with more. She spends an average of 6 to 8 hours per week at Mason's house, he told me. Not the clinic. His house. They go for lunch in towns away from yours, always separate cars, always staggered arrivals. I nodded slowly. Anything else? Dan handed me a photo envelope. I opened it. Inside were printed stills from a trail cam he'd mounted across the street from Mason's place. One image stopped me cold. It was Emily, wearing one of my hoodies, smiling up at Mason like he'd just promised her the world. That hoodie, I gave it to her one winter when she was sick. She said it made her feel safe. Now she wore it walking into another man's home. I put the photo down, jaw tight. That night, I pretended to be tired. Said I'd had a long day. We watched TV. She curled up next to me. And when I closed my eyes, all I saw was her in that hoodie in his driveway. The next morning, I started backing up files. Every message, every photo, every location ping from the tracking app. I created 3 USB drives. One for me, one for my lawyer. One, sealed in a blank envelope, that I'd mail to Mason's professional licensing board if things went nuclear. Then I booked a meeting with a divorce attorney. I didn't plan on serving papers yet. Not until I had control of the narrative. But I wanted the blueprint. I needed to understand what assets were in my name. What risks she could try to spin. Prenup? The lawyer asked. No. He nodded grimly. Then we'll have to get creative. We made a plan. It was all business. Clean. Cold. Strategic. Just like Emily's betrayal. Meanwhile, I continued the act. Playing the fool had its perks. She was relaxed, confident. She let her guard down. One evening, while she was in the shower, I checked her phone and found a deleted thread that hadn't fully synced yet. A message from Mason. Booked the cabin. Fireplace, no cell signal. Just us. Her reply. Perfect. I'll say it's a work thing. He never asks. I took a screenshot, sent it to my backup email. She was right about one thing. I hadn't asked. Not until now. The following Saturday, she said she had to help set up a spay-neuter event in another county. I nodded, even helped pack her lunch. Don't wait up, she said with a wink. I smiled. Be safe. She left at 9 a.m. I waited until 10, then drove straight to the address Dan had sent me, the cabin. It was real. Cozy. Remote. Definitely not for work. I didn't knock. Didn't walk in. Didn't need to. I just parked across the road, took photos of her car and Mason's, then drove back into town. That night, I left her a note on the kitchen table. We need to talk. Tomorrow. Just that. She came home late. Smelled like campfire and someone else's cologne. Said she was exhausted. Hugged me from behind as I stood at the sink. I didn't move. She hesitated, then went upstairs. I stayed there in the kitchen for a long time. It was almost time. But I wasn't going to rage. I wasn't going to scream. I was going to end this the way she never expected. Not like a man hurt, but like a man who had already won. The morning of our talk, I made pancakes. Blueberry, her favorite. She came downstairs in one of my old t-shirts, rubbing sleep from her eyes like nothing had changed. Like she hadn't spent the weekend wrapped in someone else's arms. Like this was just another Sunday. Smells amazing, she said, leaning over to kiss my cheek. I let her. I served the pancakes, poured coffee, smiled like I'm in it. I waited until halfway through breakfast before I said it. So, where were you really this weekend? She froze mid-bite. Her eyes flicked up to mine, and I saw the crack. The clinic. I told you. No, I said, still calm. Try again. She blinked. What's this about? I know about the cabin. I know it wasn't a work trip. I know about you and Mason. Silence. The color drained from her face. Her fork clattered against the plate. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. I leaned back in my chair. I've been watching. I know about the messages. The emails. The trips. The lies. All of it. She finally found her voice. Ryan, it's not, you don't understand. No, I said. I understand perfectly. You used our dog. You used me. And you didn't think I'd ever catch on. Her hands trembled. She tried to reach for mine. Let me explain. I don't need explanations. I need honesty, which you haven't given me in months. She looked like she might cry. I didn't move. Instead, I pulled out a small envelope and slid it across the table. She stared at it. What is this? Photos. Emails. Recordings. Everything I need if I decide to go to court. Or to the licensing board. She didn't touch it. I continued. I met with a lawyer. I know my rights. I know what I'm entitled to. I know what you're not. Her lip quivered. I didn't mean to hurt you. You just didn't mean to get caught. We sat there for a long moment. Just silence and the ticking of the kitchen clock. Finally, she asked, what do you want? That was the question. What did I want? I looked around the kitchen, the same one we remodeled together. The same walls where we hung photos, cooked holiday meals, danced barefoot while Max snored under the table. Now it all felt hollow. I want peace, I said finally. And I want you out. She flinched. I'm not going to make this ugly, I added. But you don't get to stay in the house you lied in. Tears welled in her eyes. Where am I supposed to go? To the man you threw this away for, I said coldly. Let him carry the weight now. She packed that afternoon. No yelling. No drama. Just silence. Max watched her the whole time, tail still, ears down. She didn't say goodbye to him. Just walked out with a suitcase, eyes red, lips pressed tight. When the door closed behind her, I sat on the floor with Max and let the stillness settle. I wasn't angry anymore. I was empty. But sometimes, empty is the first step to clean. That night, I started clearing her things from the bedroom. Packed up her closet, took down the framed photos, wiped her digital presence from every device. It wasn't rage. It was clarity. The next day, I took the envelope of evidence and dropped it at my lawyer's office. Then I mailed the backup copy to the state veterinary board, anonymous, but thorough. Actions have consequences. Emily had made her choices. Now it was my turn. A week went by. It's strange how quiet a house can get when the lies are gone. No more late-night whispers, no half-truths wrapped in soft kisses. Just Max's gentle breathing, the ticking of the hallway clock, and the echo of choices made. Emily hadn't come back. She didn't call, didn't text, but she did try once, through her sister. I was making dinner when the phone rang. Ryan, her sister Megan said cautiously, Emily's staying with me for now. She's not doing well. I said nothing. She didn't think you'd actually go through with it. She thought you'd yell, maybe, then let it blow over. She was wrong, I replied. I'm not saying she deserves forgiveness, Megan added quickly. But you were together a long time. Maybe you two should talk. I did talk, I cut in. I gave her space to tell the truth. She chose lies. There was a pause. Megan exhaled. She asked me to pass this along, she said, and I heard paper rustling. She wrote you a letter. I didn't respond. I'll leave it in your mailbox, she said quietly. What you do with it is up to you. I found the envelope later that night. Plain white. My name in her handwriting, familiar and foreign all at once. I didn't open it. Not yet. Instead, I sat in the garage with Max. Just us and the cool concrete. I ran my hand through his fur and whispered, "It's just us now, buddy." He wagged his tail once, like he understood. Later, I opened the letter. It wasn't long. She apologized. Said she never meant for it to go that far. Said Mason listened to her in ways I didn't. Said she felt invisible. That life had become routine. That she missed the spark. There were no real excuses. Just a quiet, hollow sadness. She didn't ask to come back. Didn't ask for forgiveness. She just confessed. I folded the letter and put it back in the envelope. Then I filed it away with the rest of the evidence. Not out of revenge. Just as a reminder. A reminder that love, when betrayed, doesn't always end in fire. Sometimes it ends in ash. And you have to choose what to build from that ash. The next day, I went back to the vet clinic. Not to confront anyone, just to cancel Max's file. I'd like to have his records transferred, I told the new receptionist. We won't be needing this place anymore. She nodded awkwardly. Didn't ask why. I walked out and didn't look back. 2 days later, I got a call from the state board. Are you the one who submitted the complaint on Dr. Mason? Yes. Thank you. You're not the first. We're reopening his case. That surprised me. I hung up and sat there thinking. So it wasn't just me. He'd done this before. Or something worse. Maybe my story was just another chapter in a pattern of damage he left behind. That night, for the first time in months, I slept soundly. No nightmares. No phantom vibrations of her texts. Just Max curled at my feet, and a strange, quiet sense of relief. I wasn't healed. Not yet. But I was finally free. And that was a start. It's strange how healing doesn't look like healing at first. It looks like cleaning out closets and crying in the garage. Like deleting old playlists. Like sitting in silence on a Sunday morning with a cup of coffee, realizing no one's coming down the stairs. It's not beautiful. Not at first. But it's honest. I started running again. Just around the block at first, Max trotting beside me, tail wagging like a metronome. He kept me moving, even when my mind tried to drag me backward. I cut my hair shorter. Bought new bedsheets. Rearranged the living room furniture. Little things, meaningless on the surface, but they felt like claiming the house back. One evening, I donated all of Emily's clothes to charity. Didn't even keep the expensive stuff. I didn't want anything in the house that whispered her name. Dan, my PI, checked in with me. You doing okay? Better than I expected, I said. Good. That vet's license? Suspended. Pending investigation. I nodded. Thank you. He paused. You want me to keep tracking her? I thought for a moment. No. I'm done looking back. It was true. For the first time in months, I wasn't checking her social media or wondering who she was texting. I had no curiosity left. Just distance. And peace. I spent weekends working on the backyard. Built a small raised garden bed. Planted tomatoes and herbs. Max loved lying in the sun while I dug in the dirt. There was something healing about growing things. About creating instead of unraveling. About building something that couldn't lie to you. I even started painting again, something I hadn't done since college. Nothing fancy. Just watercolors. But it gave my mind something else to chew on. One afternoon, I saw Emily's sister Megan at the store. She looked nervous, unsure whether to speak. I'm glad to see you, she finally said. You look lighter. I feel lighter. She's not doing great, Megan admitted. But maybe that's fair. I didn't reply. She added, she said you were right to walk away. That struck me. She's been going to therapy, Megan added. Good, I said. I didn't ask for more. Didn't ask where she was living or if she was still with him. I didn't want to know. That part of my life felt like a story I'd already closed the book on. And I wasn't going to reopen it. That night, I sat on the porch with Max watching the sunset. Sipping a beer. I think we're gonna be all right, I said quietly. He wagged his tail in agreement. There were still moments of ache, empty spaces where love used to live. But those moments passed more quickly now. And what was left behind felt solid. Simple, real, not perfect, but mine. And I was learning that was enough. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, leave a like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what's next.